Call this meeting to order. Mary, read the roll, please.
Trumbull.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Ferris. Garcia.
Here. Please join me in pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all those in attendance as well as those who are joining us online. We move on to item number 2, public comment, and I believe Lincoln Wilson has signed in.
Dan, would you please take the microphone?
Thank you.
Lincoln?
Take this opportunity to welcome Aaron. I try not to get in here too often, which means I'm either not in trouble or I'm doing something right on the outside. So welcome.
Thank you.
This is my annual report in regards to Flatlanders, as well as address the issue this year of why it is not going to happen, and answer any questions if there are any. Excuse me. The 2019 Flatlander Festival report and projection for 2020. City of Goodland, Commissioners, and City Manager. The 2019 Flatlander program, of course, is now history. For those who had an opportunity to attend, you know the event was a great success. We had visitors and vendors, not only from across the state of Kansas, but from Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and Wyoming. We had 22 vendors with an estimated crowd of 5,300 people. Subtracting resident population of estimated 40% that might have been in attendance, that's 2,120 people, remaining 3,180 visitors to our Flatlander Festival. Estimated revenue of $199 per person for one night stay, coming from the state of Kansas Department of Tourism. At 3,180, that's a revenue estimate of $632,800 for Flatlander Festival that one year. New venue was we held the first barbecue cook-off, which we had 7 participants. The picnic in the park, we had an estimated 900 to 1,000 people attend that annual event. The 2020 Flatlander Festival. It is unfortunate the 2020 event was canceled. That decision was not made lightly and was considered over several months of both personal and scientific research. A meeting was held by those participants that had a substantial financial investment in the production of that event. The Motorcycle Club, the Car Club, Northwest Kansas Tech College, the Art Center, Chamber of Commerce, and the Main Street vendors, which is represented by the chair as well as the assistant chair, which is myself and Brentwood. After due and ample opportunity to hear each group, the vote was taken. And the decision was to not hold the event during this current national crisis. There was one no vote to that. However, there are ongoing expenses associated with the production of Flatlander Festival. As the festival is a budget line item, we are still in need of your help with ongoing expenses. Business insurance, business insurance marketing to past and future vendors, websites, marketing to outside participant resources such as car clubs, this is outside of our local car clubs, dealerships, showtime agents, etc., equipment maintenance, storage facilities, business licenses, and annual reports. I'm asking your continued financial support towards those fixed expenses of $1,800. As a business person and a concerned citizen of Goodland, I would ask the city to use the balance of those line item dollars towards support of the people who are most affected by this unprecedented national medical and economic crisis. I thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully submitted, Lincoln Wilson, Chair of the Flatlander Committee.
Any questions for Lincoln? Lincoln,
Thank you so much for your report and presentation.
What does the commission think? There's been a request May, not that action needs to be taken tonight, but you can give it some thought or come back at the next meeting, or whatever. What's the consensus of the commission?
I think it sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Good, all righty. All right,
Thank
thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to item number 3, consent agenda. Item A, September 8th, 20 commission meeting minutes. Item B, September 16th special commission.
Meeting minutes. Item C, appropriation ordinances 2020-18, 2020-18A, and 2020-P18. I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by JJ. Any questions or concerns? Mary Rutherford.
Howard,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Rumble,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Okay, move on to item number 4, ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 1733, corner lot setbacks. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Ordinance 1733 was reviewed by the commission at our previous meeting on September the 8th, and was not, there were not any recommended changes to the draft ordinance at that time. The ordinance in front of you and included in your agenda packet would loosen regulations around corner lots so that construction need only comply with the building line of both streets. And if there is no existing building line on a corner lot, that the house maintain a 15-foot side yard setback. So we do recommend approval of the ordinance, but would answer any questions commissioners have at this time.
Are there any questions for Andrew concerning ordinance 1733? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept ordinance 1733.
Have a motion on the floor by JJ. Have a second by Gary. Any questions or concern? Mary Rutherford.
Rumble,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Garcia.
Move on to item B under ordinance and resolutions, ordinance 1734, Uniform Public Offense Code 2020. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Again, the UPOC for 2020 was reviewed at our September 8th meeting. This is our annual ordinance for public offenses committed in the City of Goodland. Staff does recommend approval of ordinance 1734.
I think Leanne gave us a pretty good overview on everything that went on, and so if there's not any questions or concerns, I will entertain a motion to accept ordinance 1734.
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
No seconds, JJ. Any questions or concerns? Mary Rutherford.
Harris,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Rumble,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Move on to item C, resolution 1568, changes to cemetery rules. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Resolution 1568 is recommended for approval by the Cemetery Advisory Board. The Cemetery Advisory Board met to discuss changes to the rules and regulations. They try to do so on an annual basis. They had an incident a few weeks back, which was not a severe incident, but we had kind of 3 burials scheduled an hour apart from each other. That does create congestion out at the cemetery, and it does create difficulty for the caretaker and the gravedigger and staff out there. So the cemetery board did meet and recommend that those rules be changed. The resolution in your agenda packet would change that. Predominantly the biggest changes are in section 8 of the rules and regulation, H13, 11 and 13. And essentially it's moving that 1 hour requirement to 2 hours, and then requiring that the funeral directors coordinate with the caretaker. Previously, the language just said that funeral directors need to coordinate with each other, and figured that kind of the city needs to be the central point of contact when it comes to scheduling and things like that. So approved resolution 1568 would enact those changes to the rules and regulations, and staff does recommend approval of the resolution.
Pretty elementary, I think. It's a good thing. I don't know if the commissioners have any questions for Andrew for 2 hour and just limitation because of that crunch time that they had the last time, 3 funerals back to back. And
yes, and pretty much anything that pertains to the cemetery, obviously that's an area of great personal passion when it comes to the community. So if there is not kind of black and white, people will try and push those. They will try and push those rules. The language previously, I guess, wasn't that clear about, what does an hour between services mean? Is that when the services start, or should it be an hour between when services conclude? Well, it's kind of hard to determine when a service is going to conclude. So by just putting it at 2 hours, it kind of clears all of that up and provides enough time so that it's not an issue either way.
any questions for Andrew? JD?
No.
Aaron? JJ? Aaron? No. I'll entertain a motion to accept resolution 1568 as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Brombaugh to have a second.
Second.
Second by JJ. Any questions or concerns? All those in Mary, read the roll.
Howard,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brumbaugh.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Okay, move on to item number 5, formal actions. Item A, topside aquatic incentives. I think we had Ms. Secure that was here at the last meeting. Commissioners have had some time to discuss. Andrew, I'll have you shed additional information or whatever that you might have for this topic.
Sure. So, yes, this item was discussed at our previous meeting, and commissioners recommended bringing it back for action at this meeting. The question at the time, Topside Aquatics was looking at getting either a 6-month extension or some sort of permanent extension to their discount rate. I think from a staff perspective, we do not recommend a permanent rate change at this time. I think that we could have a discussion about the extension of the incentives. I think some of the concerns in talking with, at least from staff's perspective, talking with Dustin, talking with our electric department, is perhaps that the at cost rate is a bit too generous, in that the city would not necessarily cover its own expenses in that case. That is at cost for what we are buying the electricity for, but we still do have distribution costs and other expenses when utilities are damaged, repair of utility infrastructures, transformers, and things like that. So I think if we are going to extend that incentive, we from a staff perspective, we would like that not to be at cost for the next 6 months. We could perhaps discuss a different rate, but
When was the last cost study? What it actually takes?
several years. I not in my time here have we done a rate cost study, so I don't know, Dustin, if you are familiar.
That's something we need to look into for the electrical and the water department. To do both those, to find out what it actually costs us, and then go from there.
Dustin, you might take the microphone if you don't mind. You might just share a little bit of information that you have there. And on the rate studies, that's something that you can do, right?
Some of it could be done in-house.
Mhm.
I believe to really have a true cost, we probably need to hire an outside firm.
Mhm.
And, in the past, I think year, we've had a small decrease in our cost coming from sunflower, but it hasn't been, overly large. We're seeing, I think where we're seeing a bump is we're actually selling more electricity. We've sold in the last 4 months. I talked to commissioners about this. I thought we'd see a drop with the COVID numbers. We've actually seen an increase.
So the last 4 or 5 months, we've had larger sales than we have for the last 5 years during those months. So I think it's going to continue. I mean, we're seeing another hotel, plus we're seeing 24/7 going in. We're going to see more, especially out on that south loop. Hopefully we can get some more houses built in town. But to have a true rate study, I think some of it could be done. I don't think it would be professional. I think we'd probably need to spend some money to have a study done. So.
Any questions for Dustin?
I think the issue you would run into as well with doing an electric rates are such a often politicized element that if we did an internal rate study and found our rates are too low, we're not charging enough, what's the validity of that going to be in the community? Is the community going to accept that the city did its own rate study, found its costs too low? So sometimes having an outside element perform that task can be beneficial.
And if it was just what we're selling electricity for, but I mean, the electric department helps fund a lot of other departments within the city. And so that kind of comes in play of just how much of the budget is being affected by the electric department. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You guys subsidize a lot of departments. Anyway, any questions for Dustin, and then we'll go into discussion here. No? Thanks, Dustin. Okay, so JJ, you say you would rather hold off. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, but to another point, if we do this for one, you're going to have everybody coming in and say, hey, I want another 6 months. I mean, it's you're just going to open up a can of worms is all you're going to do.
The virus is maybe never have another one again like this too.
Yeah. Gary, so what's your stand on it, brother?
Well, they went a long time without it being closed and they still had to maintain it. So I don't know. I think we need to help them if we can because I think it's a good service for a good thing for the community having that there. A lot of people use it.
But also, how many other businesses are on that same meter? There's the water people in there, there's insurance in there, and there's something else in there too. There's only 2 meters on the backside of that building.
So what do you mean? So there's only
office spaces being rented out inside there.
So who's paying the?
Right.
So what's Dollar General?
Dollar General's got their own meter.
And there's only one other meter?
There's only one other meter.
Imagine that.
So, I mean, I think we need to find out what the answers are there.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, so I mean, so basically everything that's on that side is running off of 1 meter, correct? So, and I don't know if is the business saying that meter under is a top side. Is it Topside Aquatics that has the so everything that's running on that side of the building is running through their electrical. So technically everybody that's over there is getting the same at cost discount.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to thank them for that.
Yeah.
So what kind of an arrangement is there? I mean, as though.
I'll ask Melvin about that. He's kind of in charge of the top side.
Well, I mean, but so Topside is paying the bill for everybody.
So, yeah, I think we need a couple of years.
Yeah.
Dustin, is there a way?
Can we just get 2 additional meter to try to separate it out?
That'd be the property owner's expense. That's not the city's expense. And I think if you depending on how they wanted to do that, I would say they wanted to leave the other, like 2 businesses or whatever on its own meter and then figure out how they were going to do it. But I think to give away a true incentive, you actually need to have 1 meter for that business. Otherwise, we're giving incentives away for power that.
What's going to be an incentive for him to do that? His cost, I guess.
That's a can of worms. No.
Yeah.
No, because I know we've had people in here, developers and stuff like that have wanted us to do that to other places, and we've said we can't.
No, I mean, what's his incentive to do that at his cost? I mean, to separate it for us so we can have a true.
I mean, I guess that would be if we were to decide that we weren't going to give this incentive towards Topside Aquatics, then Topside Aquatics would have to deal with the landlord to voice their concerns to him to try to get him to do what they'd like him to do. So that would basically be between them to figure that out.
How much would that run?
Oh,
for him.
Electricians are expensive, so I'm not sure. I would, depending on what kind of wiring they'd have to do on the inside. I think the majority of it goes to Topside. I mean, I wouldn't think that the other 2 have a whole lot, but when you're looking at, I think last month they were 17,800 kilowatt hours. So I mean, if you pull 3 or 4, 5 or 800 kilowatt hours off that you should be getting paid 11 cents for, and you're selling it for 6.7.
Yeah. How much do you think to add another meter at his for him to do it? What kind of dollars are we talking? Is I guess what I was asking.
I'd say anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, somewhere in there.
At the minimum.
Yeah, and that's depending on what kind of wiring they'd have to do internally. I mean, that's a large part of the building over there. How much they would have to run, because I think you pretty much have to go through Topside Aquatics, or you'd have to put another meter on the south side of the building and come off with a different power source to that. I don't think you could do it from where they're at. I think it'd actually be cheaper to put a transformer up at the south side, drop a meter over there, pick up the south side of the building. So, but even that's going to be expensive. So.
The office buildings on the north, office parts on the north side of it.
So I think, so my suggestion, first of all, the commission needs to decide whether they want to approbate any kind of adjustment on Topside Aquatics. And if, so we can have direction on how to tell Andrew how to deal with the situation.
What does that incentive technically completely run out? Has it over? It has run out? Good.
So I guess we're done.
No. Okay. I mean, I personally don't like the idea of other businesses within the same building receiving the same incentives that were guaranteed for one business and not them. That's definitely not fair to anybody, you know. That I still like the idea of, for nonprofits, maybe trying to get them a slightly discounted rate than the normal rate. You know, Dustin came and talked, you know, we had discussed a little bit about how, you know, there's a different rate for small commercial businesses and large commercials. It's a 2 cent kilowatt difference. You know, I would be more apt to do something along the lines of maybe adding nonprofits into the same rate as large commercial businesses at a slightly discounted rate than the small commercial. You know, that's a discussion we can have. But as far as, you know, like I said, the at cost rate, I agree. I don't like that. Moving forward, you said we're going to have a whole line of people out the door demanding the same rate. If we do that, it's going to end up costing us in the long run, for sure. But that's just kind of where my thoughts are.
So I guess, well, there's a lot of layers to this. I guess just thinking through all the scenarios, I don't want to penalize Topside for how it's hooked up and for that part of it. And so that's one issue. I guess, you know, as a startup, whether it's a business or a nonprofit, you know, something that we could look at too down the road. on the incentive side, instead of having everyone, knocking at the door if something's done, it's incentives to get businesses here and to form nonprofits. So you want to incentivize startups, not ones that are already existing. So that would be one way to look at it. Because that first year, whether you're a new business or a nonprofit, it's a lot of time and elbow grease and no income coming in, trying to get something off the ground. And so that first year is important. So I think you can eliminate all the existing people that would be knocking at the door, I guess, because they're not startups any longer, So this would be people kind of like what Topside did, or whoever, anybody on the interstate, Taco Grande coming in. Okay, well, I want to do this. We're going to start this. That's where the incentive where it could come into play, I guess. The other layer of it is Hanson gave $75,000 to that, and I don't want to be on the side where the city's not doing everything we can to still support projects that Hanson does. It's a unique situation. You had the COVID. They held off on a couple months of starting the just for a couple months because some stuff that happened, wrong pool got sent and whatever. And so they delayed the starting, trying to time it right where they're going to be open. They get the full benefit of the incentive. They open and COVID hits. And so they're down a couple months, basically not getting any real benefit out of the incentive because they aren't running full throttle on the electric side of it. So I don't want to, they really didn't even get the benefit of the 6 months. At the current rate, and looking and what Shannon was talking about and knowing some of the numbers with my history, it's going to be hard for them to survive, through the end of the year at 100% of, what's being charged. So there's just a lot of layers to that, and I don't want to, it needs to be there. It wouldn't be there, I guess. Looking at it, okay, if I'm not even talking permanent, I'm just talking in the short run. You usually don't have a good feel of a business or anything you're starting until you've gone through a whole calendar year. So that's something else I'm kicking around. Well, do we do whatever the new rate cost we come up with? I'm just looking in the future too. Do we go a whole year for those to try to incentivize them as much as we can to get them a whole year calendar, to get a new budget for them, to plan for it? I know when they get through their calendar year, they're gonna have to relook at rates and memberships and try to make the numbers work. And at that point, it's probably not our responsibility, but I don't know if we don't help out. The choice is either get it at cost right now, and it's really not, I guess at this definition of cost, it's costing us a little bit, but yeah, so I'd be in favor of, if we could, I wish we had the number of what that is on top of our time, and but not the true retail rate, whatever you want to say, to help them out, because the alternative is not for them or others not to be there, and they're such a unique situation. They just require a lot of juice to keep the thing running. Not everybody to just turn the lights on requires $2,400 a month in power. So all that being said, I've been in favor of helping them out through the end of the year, and then they kind of have to figure it out at that point, for all those reasons, I guess. The alternative is not good. I don't want to see the doors closed up and Hanson throw $75,000 away that they're helping us try to get stuff off the ground into the community. But yet we've got to balance it with how do we work the cost part of it in the future too. So I don't know if we can throw all that together right now, and maybe it's a little bit more than what maybe it's not as much of a discount to try to cover some of that, so we're not losing. But I don't know how you come up with that figure. So, but anything would help them out tremendously, I know.
So I have a question for you. You alluded to the fact that they didn't get the full 6 months. Is that what you're saying?
No, they got the 6 months. I was saying because they had to shut down basically have it closed for a couple months. You can bring the water temperature down. You don't have to run the humidifiers, full throttle. And so the usage wasn't, and they weren't open, but it still counted for that time period when the 6 months
Even
started.
though they were shut down for a couple of months, you said.
So it's just, it's just the time of when they finally opened and when.
Because how much is the discounted rate that they got?
What month? See, our costs vary every month.
Variates.
Right, yeah.
And so,
Well, my track of thinking here is they've had probably 2 months that they were completely closed. So give them that 2 months extension to figure out what a little higher than what we've got for our cost of electricity and charge them that rate.
yeah,
So they're
see,
still getting a discount.
April and May, they were down. They were up to 12,400, 11,400, down to 7,000, 8,000, and they're back up to 16 and almost 18,000 kilowatt hours now. So, I mean, to date, they've received almost $5,000 worth of electrical discount for these months,
What, 5 months, 6 months?
6 months.
Gary, do you have anything before I make any further comments
I
here?
would guess that probably 90% of that electric bill was for the required,
Aquatics.
yeah,
Mhm.
because those offices don't use much.
And then I have a comment because it
Sure.
was brought up on incentives. And so I thought that's kind of what the Economic Development Committee was going to put together. And I was hoping that they would put together incentives that didn't include at cost electricity to bring people in. And so if we do this, we really do need to have a cost study done, because that's one thing I don't want to hear when we come to budget time is it's really tight. Well, we just choked ourselves off, so we can't do anything about it. And so $5,000 or $8,000, $10,000 don't seem like much, but when we start getting 7, 8, 10 customers in here demanding the same thing, it's going to show. So, and I don't want to leave something for Luke and Chris on the electric department that they're not going to want to come to work for. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that Economic Development Committee can really rev stuff up, but I'm hoping that it's not at the cost of the electric department on that. So,
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's kind of just been the history of what's been done. And so, but yeah, totally looking at it from a new angle, maybe that's not how it's incentivized any longer, and that would be fine too. So look for a different way and a different way to do that. So yeah, I would do.
and I did reach out. I mean, I reached out to Tyson McGreer over in Colby, city manager, reached out to Dwayne Banks, electric director at City of Russell, Jerry Beaker, KMEA, Colin Hanson. I didn't get back, but Tyson is the president of KMU, and they don't do anything like this in Colby. They kind of do like what we used to do, kind of pull back and get what we needed to off of our materials and stuff, and maybe pull back off on some labor and stuff. And the city of Russell said that there's no way that they would do anything like this. So just kind of reaching out there, because I know that their load is quite a bit more than ours. I mean, Colby's at like 18 and Russell's about 28 megawatts and we're at 12. So, but, trying to make it fair, I know I've talked to a few of you. It's like trying to, like a business downtown, if they're struggling through this pandemic and stuff like that. I mean, if they come up here, what do we do? If we open up this can, just how big a can is it going to be?
How long we've been doing incentives with tied to electrical?
Well, for quite a few years,
Since Josh Deckant was the mayor, and that was the very first incentive, was a 70-30. The city took on 70% of the cost, and
the consumer would do 30.
Yeah, 30.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that on that ground pile out in the industrial park. That was the first incentive given away.
All right.
And
So what's our ratio right now? Is it incentive 50?
the last incentive given away was this incentive.
Yeah, but what's the percentage? Do you have any idea?
Oh, you mean cost wise?
Yeah, percentage wise, you know, for the city versus them.
The electrical cost, if they would have paid for at full, was like around 11,000 since like I think September or October of last year, and they've gotten almost a $5,000 discount. So, you know, about a little less than 50. So I mean, I think they're paying about anywhere between 55 to 60%. So,
And 70/30 is an infrastructure
Right.
Yeah.
discount, not a rate discount.
Right.
So if someone has to put in a road or have a transformer put in, the city would take 70% of the cost of that transformer, of that road, and the developer would do 30. We've still offered that benefit in recent years, but that wasn't a utility rate
Right.
discount.
Yeah, it was two totally different issues.
Right, yeah.
You're up 70/30s. I think it would still, you know, what we did the last time I can remember, you know, when we did that. But my question to you is the 12 get you 6 still in operation?
We went away. This was an effort to do away with 12 gets you 6. I still think to choose between the two, we would prefer to give a rate discount,
Mhm.
whereas the 12 gets you 6 ends up actually being money out of the city's pocket because we credit the account. And so we figured we would rather take less off the top, I guess,
Sure.
rather than actually give money back, apply a credit to the account. So that was, this was an effort to move past 12 gets you 6.
So I think I hear the consensus, you know, amongst us, you know, we have a point to address here, and I think that what's been discussed here is number one is we want to do some kind of incentives, but we want to find that barometer of what is going to work both for the city as well. So we're stuck, you know, on a small commercial it's 9 cents, you know, large commercial is 11 cents.
the other way around, John.
The other way, that's
Yeah.
right, the other way. So what we need to find out is what is that middle number that the commission is thinking, or what would you live with? And the reason that I say that, if we go with, entertain the idea of doing what JJ says and give them an additional 2 months, that gives them an opportunity to start setting, you know, their ducks in a row. Plus, it gives us an opportunity to say, you know, what number are we going to feel comfortable that every business that comes in here, here's how we're going to incentivize you from the electrical standpoint.
I think what Dustin is saying, then maybe our ask of the new ED board is to come up with a new incentive plan and project to put forward to whoever they're trying to recruit to come to Goodland outside of tied to the electrical department.
Well, I'm sure that they're going to do that, but I wanted to assure Dustin as well that once the commission formulates, you commissioners pass whatever that barometer, new ED board has to comply with it. I mean, they can't go outside those barometers because that's what the commission has decided. So we'll be protected. Now, they'll probably precipitate and create new incentives, which we encourage them to do. But once the commission, you know, sets the electrical rate of what we would do for it, that's something that's already set in place with the New Economic Development Board. And they say, hey, guess what? You know, we're going to charge you 8 or 9 or whatever. So they would already know what that incentive is going to be from the electrical department, right?
Yeah, and I know I mentioned the contract that we're currently in with Sunflower. So we're kind of held at this higher rate right now. I know when we spoke with KMEA that they said that they could get us about 4-cent power. Well, we're 6+ years away from that contract. So by that time, you might be seeing 2.5-cent power. Who knows? But we need to have options. I mean, if you get to that point, I mean, you can incentivize whatever you needed to if you sold, 6 cent power, you're still got your cushion for your general fund and everything else. But yeah, if there's another rate or line item or whatever for to incentivize these businesses, I think it needs to be a solid number, kind of like the 9 for the large and 11 for the small and 12.7 for residential, because the fluctuation in what we're doing now, it's like we're taking the number and each month the rate changes and stuff like that. If we get multiple businesses and like that, that's going to put a lot of strain on Shauna and stuff down in Mary's office. So
Okay, so two things that we need to finalize, that we need to, number one, JJ has got a point. I don't know, first of all, what do you think about that, Karen? The additional 2 months, give them time to get their ducks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I feel there's probably lots of businesses that had a tough 2 months, during that first part of this whole ordeal. And, again, we're kind of singling out them to give them a little extra that nobody else is going to get. I also still have an issue with the other businesses within that meter getting discounted rate, whether it's a little bit or not, is still a principal thing that I don't think is right.
I think that is going to be addressed. JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care for that either. All that wasn't the intent of the incentives, but I just don't want to. I guess I said penalize topside for that.
Well, I'm just talking about the issue of giving them the extension for an additional 2 months.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And so,
You're good with it?
As far as other businesses, maybe they'll kick us out.
Well, I'm okay with the 2 month extension as well. The other thing that we need to address is we need to have some discussion. So what do you think that number should be, Harold?
I mean, like I said, I kind of like the idea of nonprofits in general
Right.
getting the 9 cent per kilowatt hour rate. That's just how I feel personally about it.
9 cents for nonprofit. Okay.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with that? Garrett?
Will that keep you from becoming a nonprofit?
I build a house out north of Edson, so it doesn't affect me here. So
Oh,
I'm a short timer.
the electricity's half.
No, because we're actually making money. I can't buy power for 6.7 cents a kilowatt and deliver it to their facility for that, because we're losing money.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, if we had that buffer on there, then I think we're okay. But as a commission or whatever, somebody's going to have to come up with that number. And if it's moving from small to large, that's a 2 cent reduction right there. Or if you have a rate study done and you create your own nonprofit class, then that's up to the commission. So, but I mean, I know a rate study is going to cost money too. So,
JJ, how do you feel about it?
Well, I guess I'm okay with that, but I would rather have a rate study done so we know where we're at.
I'm good with that too.
Maybe we wait and see what a rate study would cost us.
Why does the commission feel okay if we do this? So next meeting's on the 5th of October, right? Yeah, I think it is on the 5th of October. So what if we take some time to contemplate on that, come back and put it on the discussional item and see if some ideas, change somewhat. I mean, I think that the advantage to putting that number in place right now is that, listen, you know, I know there might be a business or two more that might, you know, move in. And so it would get placed, it would get, you know, nice to have that number in place. Now, you're talking totally nonprofit, right? Nonprofit, so.
Are you,
Huh?
are you talking two different things? The 2 month, do that and then go ahead with this?
Well, put this on the 9 cents that we're collaborating right now on for additional discussion in our next meeting. We can do, I think there's enough consensus to do the extension of the 2 months right now.
That's, I just want to make sure.
Okay, so is it good, would you just, you know, want to come back and think about it a little bit? Are you all right with that, Gary? Okay, and Aaron, you okay with that?
Not
Sure.
sure I am or not.
A good democratic process. So then I will entertain a motion just to make it a formality, and it needs to be to extend the aquatics an additional 2 months. Their extension as it is right now at whatever price they're paying, and then give them enough time to put their ducks in a row.
So moved.
Have a motion by JD. Have a second by Commissioner Ferris. Any questions or concerns?
Just want to say, I'll probably go ahead and vote yes on this 2 months. After this 2 months is over, I probably will not vote yes again on extending anything else. I do think by then we need to have whatever rate or whatever we're going to do sorted out.
Right.
And then also I do feel that if we are going to give a discounted rate for nonprofits or whatever we do, the businesses within that building that are not nonprofits will either need to be on a separate meter, or something will have to happen in order for them to keep on receiving a discounted rate.
And I agree.
Right. Right. So you want to include that in your motion? You make the motion. You got it down there? You need to addendamize your motion to what Aaron said. You know, I mean, of course, you're going to vote yes, right? So, but you want to address those issues, right?
It was just comment.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't affect the motion.
All right,
Just
all right.
need a vote.
So, okay, Mary, read the roll.
Howard,
Yes.
Ferris.
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. All right. Okay, we move on to item B, Andrew, accessible parking spaces on Main Street.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Probably invite Brian to chime in on this one, but I know he did reach out, and I kind of noted in my memo that Brian was able to make contact with Ray Petty, who is the Great Plains ADA Center Technical Assistance Coordinator. Ray indicated that some information provided to Brian a few years back about not needing handicap parking on public streets was inaccurate, that we do need to maintain handicap parking on public streets, and that he advised it would not be a good idea to move the sign one way or the other. He said the sign could be put on the building, but it has to be in direct sight of the driver. This is why the sign needs to be in the center of the stall, so that it is in direct sight of the driver and does not give question as to where the parking stall is located. So advice from them is not to move the sign or to affix the sign to the building. I know this was something discussed at the last meeting and to be brought back at this one. With that being the case, probably would not advise that sign or stall be moved, but would defer to commissioners in light of this information.
I think we just need to keep it where it's at.
We don't have a choice.
I agree. I brought up during our last discussion that there are blocks on Main Street that do not have good handicap parking. Could we, maybe for next meeting, get like a list or a map or something that kind of shows where all the handicap parking spots are on Main and on the off streets on the side? I know there's some on some of the blocks kind of on the off streets a little bit, just so that we can see what we're working with and maybe what we need to do to improve other areas.
Sure. To provide that. I think that was one of my comments to Brian, is that information may necessitate that we add parking stalls downtown. But we can get you that information.
Thank
Any other questions on this? Nothing? Okay, move on to item number C, transfer of property at 1008 Main Avenue, Andrew.
Mayor, Commissioners, this item came as a request from President Shears of Northwest Kansas Technical College. They have had their staff in the facility at 1008 Main. For commissioners that were unaware, it's kind of been a saga with the city and property, dilapidated property on Main Street. Did include some photos in your agenda packet of this. It was kind of brought to our attention because the roof had holes in it. Neighboring business owners complained. The city did go in and abate by putting a roof on it. After the property changed hands a couple times, we had the ability to purchase the property, which the city did. The intention when we discussed it at the time was that the city would transfer ownership to Northwest Tech. Northwest Tech would do a system similar to what they've done with their 10th Street houses, that they would use it as their students providing the labor and kind of an educational opportunity, that the city would assist with finding grants and funding the actual materials for that property. And it sounds like Northwest Tech is still interested in going that direction. They are interested in moving forward in that direction. And so after talking with our legal counsel, talking with their legal counsel, the best way to do that is we originally talked about we would maintain the building and then we would have kind of access agreements with Northwest Tech. And it sounds like just the easiest thing to do is to transfer the building over to them. So again, they're interested and ready to move forward in that direction. I think
in the future they would be also housing the Endowment Association there in that building.
yeah. So I think what I said there. Yeah, North plans to turn this building into an event space and house their Endowment Association. They've talked about a number of things, kind of an open floor plan, having some retail in there, selling Northwest Tech gear and different materials. So they've got some good ideas. We should have invited Ben here to talk about it a little bit more, but again, it's rehabbing a Main Street building and putting it back into functional use. I think what you see is the biggest problem with that building is it is so far beyond profitability for some private investor. There's so much work that needs to go into it. It's going to necessitate some sort of agreement like this or some sort of structure like this to get it back into working order. So that's kind of how it
So we're
started.
talking about giving it to them.
Yeah. So we're
out 42,000 plus the cost of the back door. So about 43,000.
yes.
All right, you guys, here you want to give something away, and I brought a piece of property up that I wanted to buy. And you guys turned me down. I think this should be put up on the market, see if there's anybody willing to pay for it.
I have a question, maybe kind of in the same line with him. If it was purchased by the city with the intent of it ended up with the VOTEC or with the college, was that?
So just a little bit of history.
I was just curious as to why the city became the middleman in that. If all the intention from the beginning was for the college to get it anyway, why didn't the college just buy it outright?
City
I
bought
could-
it because it's about to take out the buildings beside it.
Right.
Yeah, I could. So the city purchased it as opposed to the technical college because the city did go in and abate the roof on there. Again, just like when the city does unfit structures, when it does any sort of abatement issue, it does assess those costs to the property taxes on the building. So the city being the middleman essentially allowed us to forfeit that cost. Whereas if someone came in and purchased it, they would have that special assessment on the back of any purchaser at Northwest Tech would have to come in and pay the $30,000 special assessment that was put on the property. So it's essentially a way around having someone have to pay that cost. So it's
Well, and the history is so intense on that thing. The gentleman had actually sold it, remember, once. Once the individual found out the actual value and how the internal construction, they just immediately walked away. Now, the previous commissions, had the prerogative whether to just move in the direction and just totally destroy and take down, the building, which at one point we talked about, but we were going to have an empty lot with no income, with no revenue, with no nothing. And so at that particular time, the commission said, well, if we can, end up with a building and put and make it a viable, and put an additional business in there, you have to look at the term of amount of income that you're going to receive through taxes and through utilities. And so, you look down 30, 40, 50 years, more than have reciprocated versus, the venue of tearing, the building down. And you would have had, no Main Street wants to have vacant lots if at all possible. So, it was kind of the guy put us through a lot, didn't he? He did.
Yeah, the property was purchased twice on eBay, sight unseen both times. Both times the developer got there, saw what they were dealing with, said, "Oh, I'm not gonna fix this up. There's too much cost to it." Then the first guy essentially duped the second guy by putting it back on eBay, and this time he put it on eBay when there was now a $30,000 special assessment on it, on top of everything that was. In fact, he actually advertised brand new roof on this building. So my concern with that property is if we offer to sell it, is not that nobody will buy it. It's actually that someone will buy it. And in doing so, they're going to buy it and just sit on it, and nothing's ever going to become, because the investment is so high for that structure that I think we're just going to lose the downtown building. It's going to eventually be, it's at the state right now where we could have to demo it.
You put stipulations on there. If you don't have no progress in so many months, you forfeit the building. I just have problems giving it away. Giving the building away when you guys voted against me purchasing property that the city owned. And you guys didn't even ask how much money I was going to offer. And mine would have been economic development.
What property was that? The one on Capitol?
North of 2nd Street.
Oh, up there.
I think it should go out on the market for a period of time.
Well, I guess, my position is having, a whole lot of history on the situation. I understand where you're coming from. This has been an ongoing conversation with the tech college, to get some type of actual structural movement that could be expedited, by the college, and fix it up to its standards, and we start generating revenue for years to come. Now, you wanted to buy lots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wanted to buy the lots, not a building, right?
For housing.
Okay. Yeah, you wanted to buy the lots. Yeah, and I think, I don't remember all the detail, but I think one of the concerns that the new housing topside manor that could need more space there, if I recall correctly.
They could, but that puts them in a different grade of housing too, because they're going by the 45 unit complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, all I know that I would continue to be in favor to allocate the building. This is as I've always said. I hear what what everyone is saying. JD, how do you feel about this?
If I remember right, Ben was up here and we had the discussion what maybe the tech could do with it and use it for a class and redo it. And I think at the time, if I remember right, maybe he was going to even use it for students and maybe apps, maybe a class. So it sounds like it's changed maybe a little bit from the original, but it was always they're going to be involved somehow because you could, tie it into class and take their time to remodel it or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe we just need to get them back up here and see. And maybe if as a in between giving it to them and selling it, still have them involved, but maybe they need to spend a little for it, too. So, but maybe we just need further discussion on it or something with him.
Gary, how do you think?
When we put the roof on it, I don't remember the tech school ever being mentioned.
No, that was before the tech
Yeah.
school was involved.
Yeah, because they put the roof on because of the common wall on the north side.
Yeah.
There was damage to possible damage to each place on every
Right.
either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that was voted on and done.
We put the roof on it before any prospects of purchasing the building came up almost a year or two after. We had kind of an immediate abatement concern about the condition of the property. And then later down the road, again, when these kind of transactions took place, the person who purchased the building on eBay came to the city and said, what can we do? How can I don't want to take this property, which has this special assessment on it now. And then, file this deed at the courthouse. And now all of a sudden I'm $30,000 in back taxes on my new property. So at that point, we engaged the discussion with the commission and with Northwest Tech about if the city took ownership. You never want to take ownership of a building and not have an idea of what you're going to do with it. So we put together a plan in place of, okay, where does this building go if the city steps in?
So the consensus is bring it back for discussion at the next meeting to bring Ben in and kind of ask him to make a presentation on it.
I'm not gonna, I feel the kind of same way he does.
Sure.
I think. I mean, I wasn't there when all this went on. Just from what I hear, I feel like it's probably something the city shouldn't have done in the first place. I don't think it's a good idea for the city to be involved in buying property just for the sake of buying the property to keep it upright or not. That's the purpose of the free market. If it was a building that somebody wanted to buy and and fix up, great. If not, if it needed to be tore down, great. Then the lot could be sold. And if the market calls for it, somebody could buy it and build something new. I don't think we should be we shouldn't be trying to control the market in that way, especially with real estate. So I'm likely to like I said, feel like JJ, if we have an invested interest in this building and, we want to get rid of it, then we should try to get rid of it the fair way and give everybody who would want an opportunity to buy it or not buy it, have the opportunity to look at it and do what they want to do.
So I think we've had some pretty good discussion. So it would be good to bring Ben in at our next meeting. And kind of have a discussion with him. Everybody in consensus of that? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you guys for your comments. We move on to item D, the MOU with Sherman County. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. You do have, this was added to your agenda packet. I did print out handouts for commissioners to review as well. Did get word from the county that it sounds like the Sherman County Spark request as a whole has been accepted. So of that, the city stands to receive about $30,000 between reimbursement costs and direct aid services. In order for us to receive those funds, we do have have to have an MOU with the county, because they will be the fiscal entity for those federal dollars. And so this MOU would outline kind of our relationship with them and their authority to disperse the funds to us. So those funds include reimbursement of COVID-19 costs the city has incurred, and those include some of the streaming costs that we had when we were unable to be open to the public, had to get streaming equipment. So those costs would be reimbursed. Costs for PPE and some of those things that we had to purchase in light of the pandemic. And then some of the direct aid items that I'd mentioned in past meetings, some touchless hand dryers and antibacterial things for different park bathrooms and different city facilities as well. So those are some of the things that the city would be receiving if the memorandum is approved. Like I said, I've looked over the MOU. I don't have any concerns with the city proceeding forward with it. Kind of all the entities need to approve it that are interacting with the county right now, but would answer any questions commissioners have on it.
A couple of things. One, you said the streaming equipment would be covered under that. I feel like that's something that we were doing anyway. We didn't do it due to the COVID-19 issue. So I don't know why that would be covered. I mean, if it is, great, but I don't know why it would be. And also in the wording of this, I suppose the wording is as of today. All the wording of this is supposed to be as of today, since it's dated today. It has on here, as of this date, there have been no reported positive cases on the front. I feel like that's an inaccurate statement.
Because we've had some before.
So I don't know if we need to get that official number from the county for that.
Yeah, I don't know how that. So yeah, I can make that change to it.
Yeah, it would be in the tune of, would you say 30,000?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions for Andrew? Well, I think the memorandum of understanding is pretty clear cut here. Anytime that you can get funds, you can get them. There's certainly going to be, we have to comply with the different categories of where we can apply that, but I'm sure that the city can find those. So I will entertain a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding with Sherman County. With the change. Have a motion by JJ. Do I have a second? Have a second by Commissioner Paris. Any questions or concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Thompson.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Trumbull.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Okay, we move on to item number 6, item A, City Manager's Report. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. The Economic Development Chamber CVB Board did meet last week. They are working with legal counsel on the 501c3 and moving the organization establishment forward. So they have been meeting and working, and it sounds like they have a pretty good direction, and I think they intend to put together kind of a draft interlocal agreement, put together some draft documents for both commissions to review in the next few months. So they're coming along nicely, and they'll continue to keep you updated on their progress. We have our street crews continuing to pour and work on the alley behind the GAC. That's coming along very well. And we have a couple of bids out presently. Obviously, we have the 1521 Kansas, we have some tree abatement, and then we have our internet and phone service contracts are out right now. The internet and phone service are kind of bigger ones for a 5-year term. So we'll have those, I believe the first week in November is when we would present those to commissioners. So those are all up on the City of Goodland website. Now we are advertising them in the newspaper as well. So just wanted to make you aware of those bids. That concludes my report. I would stand for any questions from commissioners at this time.
On those bids for the internet and the phone, is there somebody else between Eagle and S&T that bids on this thing? Or are those only two?
AT&T might. I think we thought maybe Next Tech might be getting into that, but kind of not so sure about that anymore. But I mean, obviously, for the most part, S&T and Eagle are kind of our two.
Maybe Josh can expound a little bit more. So are they going to be greater services, Josh, or are they going to cover more area? What is the from what I read, it almost seems like it was going to a more sophisticated type of because we're expanding a little bit.
So the original agreement So the original one was, the original contract was phone and internet service kind of bundled for 3 years with a 1-year extension opportunity.
And that was with Eagle.
That was with Eagle from the last one. We did take that 1 year just because there were so many other things going on that we didn't have time to properly do it up again. So this one, we've separated out the internet from the phones, make it a little bit more simple as far as the bid process. We're not really expanding anything more than what we have. It's just a few additional things that we would like to have for management. But pretty much it's the same services we have, just that contract expired. It was time to rebid it out.
Okay.
I think we're seeing internet speeds going up and costs going down too. So I think we're pretty.
I guess the internet would be the one thing that one we are definitely upgrading.
Yeah.
Because as we keep housing more and more services, live streaming, work from home, things of that nature, the speeds have to increase for us to be able to do that properly.
So any questions for Josh?
Doing 5 years? Why are we doing 5 instead of 3? Like I said, there's year to year, there's a lot of drastic change in cost. So why would we hold ourselves to a longer contract? Just go around.
There is a lot of changes, but the basics of it really stay the same. The biggest issue we have with trying to do short term on services like this is they are massive bundles that we have to work with. I mean, we have 65 total phones. We have porting issues. There's a lot of the intricacies that go into a phone system in particular that to have to go through and try to change that every 2, 3, 4 years, even 5 years, can actually put a lot of undue burden on everything, because then you're always aiming for the latest and greatest. That's not necessarily what we need here. We need stability more than having the latest and greatest features. And for the most part, phone systems themselves don't really change all that much. It's just additional features and things like that. And honestly, we don't lose half of the features like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Josh? Okay. Thanks, Josh. Any questions for Andrew?
If you heard back from our last meeting about the complaints we had gotten about the sewer smell that's been more potent this year on the north side of town.
We're still looking into it. So I will follow up when we have an answer on that, but I do have Neil looking into that. I don't have an update for this evening's meeting, but it's like I said, it'll be I think there's a lot for us to figure out there, but I will report back when we have info.
Thank you.
Let's scratch that one off of mine.
All right, we move on to item B, Fire Chief and Building Inspector, Andrew.
Brian?
Well, not long ago, I was up here and gave you guys a report, so a whole lot has changed. We still are going to be getting our pumps and aerial tested. Our inspector hasn't been out yet to do that, so we're waiting on that. Still need to go out and do some residual and static testing on our fire hydrants. 5-year plan for ISO. So I'll go over what is going by Walmart. Is that zone 1? That's zone 5. Is it 5? So zone 5. So then it goes to ISO, and I know which hydrants, how many hydrants and stuff like that in that zone. The static residual tests on. So about that. A little bit of bad news, we are losing two really good firemen in our department. They both got hired with Wichita Fire Department. So we fix it. We'll fight fire there with Wichita. So for them, bad for us. So they're two of the guys that helped save the elderly and the patient in Florida, patient out that special fire we had in February. So they're very good firemen. Wichita is meaning good guys. Get some new people filling those spots up. So other than the fire department, another bit of bad news. Talked to Mr. Topliff. Sounds like the attorney has lost all of the documentation for consolidation or merging. So they're going back to square one, I guess. So that's getting pushed back further. So Mr. Topliff does not seem to be happy about it. So,
Can I interrupt for just one moment? Yes, he talked to me the other day and I was not very happy about that either, to be honest with you. And my question is, our city attorney has been in the middle of this as well, and shouldn't he also have copies of the documents that they were working with?
Obviously Jake would have to speak for himself, but I don't think Jake had any involvement in the actual creation of the merger document. It was essentially, this is the county's, what will ultimately result is the city merging under the county's umbrella. So the county needed to be the entity creating the merger document. So we have provided them with all the documentation requested, everything about our assets, kind of our numbers, but Jake has not created any of the merger document or had any involvement with that. It's been turning it over to the county and letting them work.
So he hasn't received any
Not
copies from him to go over to make sure everything's good on the city side with what they're doing. Everything's gone to them.
As far as I know, yes. Again, I'd have to check with him on that and obviously get his.
I think the last time, go ahead.
Yes, I was just say, if you would please just check with him.
The last time that they addressed that issue, Andrew, the only thing that Jake was responsible for is making sure that we got a description of all of the assets that we were supposed to on our end, but there was never any merger contract finalized. We were trying to get them to expedite that. So the only information that Jake is going to have is our assets, because that's what he was involved in. And he sent that to the county. Now, I don't know whether the county, last time I knew, the county hadn't gotten anything back, the city hadn't gotten anything back from the county. So that's the only thing that our side. So I think on our end, we have everything prepared. We're just waiting on the county. So last time I heard from one of the commissioners that they thought that he was moving, very expeditiously, and we should have something finalized by, January at the latest.
Yeah, according to Commissioner Topliff, he advised at the last county commission meeting, the county attorney had mentioned that he had lost every documentation. So Commissioner Topliff advised that he, which I think he was just talking off the cuff, was nothing obviously official, but looking into maybe going into finding a private lawyer to work on it. But again, I think he was just talking off the cuff. I don't think that was anything official. So anyways, So I'll just let you know about that. So I probably will have to work on getting information to whoever is requesting it. So I'll be working on that probably again. So I saved obviously all of it, but there's some things we did add to some of the apparatus I'll have to add and do some replacement costs and all that stuff I'll have to do. So obviously the fire chief's vehicle's been ordered, purchased. According to Dan Brenner, after we had ordered it, it was going to take 7 to 8 weeks for it to come in. But he said with COVID, it could be 1 or 2 more weeks after that. So he said, don't hold it to that 7 to 8 weeks. So anyways, so that's the status on that. Other than that, the fire department, we're doing pretty good. We're at 90 calls right now. We're at pace to be over 100 calls again this year. So we've been average between 100 and 125 calls a year. So it's kind of where we're keeping pace at. Both city and county, just out of our station, we typically average about 200, 230 calls a year. So we're an active department. So the building side, Holiday Inn, did a final inspection on electrical on the main floor. They're getting ready to put in drop-down ceiling. They already have way ahead of schedule, in my opinion, but they already put in the exercise equipment, all that stuff. Still a construction zone, so I hope nothing gets damaged there. But other than that, they're painting, they're putting in furniture in rooms. I think I'm supposed to, the electrician called me, I'm supposed to be doing a final electrical inspection over the entire building sometime this week so that he can leave and get out of there. So other than that, just plugging along out there. So I got plans for the 24/7 travel shop. I forwarded that to all the other department heads that need it. And I've been in contact with other contractors that are questioning on how to get licensed in the city because they're planning on bidding on the project. So from all over the place. So that's been going on there. There's a small little building construction project going around town. This was a very quiet year for roofs. Not a whole lot of roofing projects went on this year. So that was kind of a downside for revenue on the building inspection side. But other than that, Dakota, he is, that's also down also with yards. A lot of those properties that the city had dealt with went up for tax sale. And a lot of those new property owners are actually maintaining those properties. And so I think Dakota said he's only at a little under 200 yards, where we typically average about 300 yards a year. So we're down that much. So I guess. So looking at that line item for professional funds, we're at 32,000. So we're sitting pretty good just in that line item for professional funds. And that's where that, of course, comes out of. So we should be sitting good to take care of 1521 Kansas when that comes up, and any other major issue that comes up that we have to go after or do. So anyways, other than that, that's about it on the building and fire department side of things. You guys have any questions for me on anything?
Any questions, Brian?
No, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, sir.
On the demolition contract, I see a permanent office is required now. Is that's something new, or?
No, that's always been in there. Yeah.
Okay.
And that language that you're looking at is for local bidder preference. So if someone wants to claim that they're a local bidder, we get into if someone is a local bidder versus a non-local bidder, well, then we get into defining what a local bidder has to be someone who has an office or some sort of presence in Goodland. So that's what that language is.
I've never seen it before.
We did kind of add that, but it's not saying you have to have a permanent. I mean, you have to have some sort of permanent presence. Is all it's trying to say.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yep. You guys have a good day.
Move on to item C, Director of Public Works. Dustin.
I'll try to go through this pretty quick, but if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me. I do like to brag on my crews. I think I have two really good crew leaders, Lucas Wollock leading my distribution and Chris Douglas leading my production. So At the plant, we've been working on our spill prevention countermeasures and control plan. We'll have that updated through EBH. I did talk to Darren Neufeld and gave any information that he needed to update that. General maintenance and cleaning, as always at the plant. We've worked on Unit 13. They're still working on that. The catalyst on the element and the exhaust. We've got a little bit, so we might have to replace the catalyst on that. We did some Unit 7 maintenance. They had a water leak on one of the heads. After running it for about an hour, they found that, fixed it, and so it's operational now. Busy doing monthly reports. Chris found a problem with Unit 3's exhaust. Unit 3 is our 1938 model. It's straight diesel. So I'm not sure, and it's not insured. We don't run it. I'm not sure if it's going to be cost worthy to fix it. What happened at the bottom of the exhaust, it just rusted out. So we're kind of looking into that and seeing what can be done. I think if we could lift it out with a crane, Chris could do the welding himself, but he's trying to get EBH to sign off on if it could be raised, if it's structurally sound enough to be lifted out, or if it's even going to be worth taking time to fix it. So last or 2 weeks ago, they had worked on some compressor issues, just kind of taking care of the yard with some weed killer and stuff. Of course, the guys do their weekly and monthly safety checks. And then last week we had a KMU safety meeting here over respiratory procedures and devices. So on the line side and the distribution side, back in August, we sent 2 guys to the KMU underground school in McPherson, Kansas. And at the end of this month, I think it's next week, is that right there? There'll be 3 guys going to the overhead distribution school at KMU. And the apprenticeship program's going well. They should have had a meeting here on Tuesday, but with Rich's funeral, they moved it for us. So, but I think my guys they're ahead of schedule. So, we're currently working with USD 352 and their electrician, Zach Lohr, on the track lighting project. And he did call today asking about when the transformer would be ready to set. So we do have one on order. I think it should be here within a week or 2. The guys finished up an alley rebuild between 5th and 8th College and Walnut. We did a service upgrade at 517 West 10th, customer requesting a larger service to park a RV in his backyard. So, of course, it's the time of year for tree trimming, and these guys are line clearance tree trimmers. They're not professional tree trimmers. So we go in and try to get 10 foot of line clearance, per OSHA regulations. So, of course, we did, security lights. We did work with, was it the radio station?
Yes.
And we shut the lights off at the Max Jones parking lot on Saturday so they could host their drive-in movie. And then the guys worked at putting up a temporary power source for the vendors there. And I think that worked out pretty well for them. Of course, we're still busy with locates, any service work from the office, and just your random non-payments and stuff like that. So,
So if we could lift that engine and do the welding, that's going to be
that's the exhaust for that. And Chris is, I believe, in a former job or whatever, I think, he did a lot of welding. He's pretty good. So I don't doubt anything that he can do. It's just trying to get it out into a place where it's safe for him to weld, or if it's worth it. Like I said, it's a 1938 unit. We don't run. It's not even listed in our insurance because it's not even listed as an emergency only unit.
So this wouldn't be something that you would have to replace for the production of
No.
the.
No, it's not
Okay.
listed on our capacity or anything.
'Cause every one of those things would run about $1 million in order to at least.
It's roughly going to be $1 million, maybe just a little bit more now, because I mean everything goes up every year. You hold off on something, it raises, but per megawatt is right at $1 million, and that's a 700 kW unit, so it's a little less than that. But we would never replace and try to get 700. We'd try to bring in 3 or 4 megawatt unit. So, but it's, if you brought in a more efficient unit, you could run more, but with our contract, we can't run more. So it's trying to get out of that contract and seeing what we can do. But, it's with wind and solar anymore. These plants are just chasing power. So you get a lot of plants that come online when the wind goes down or something like that. And we're not one of those plants. I mean, those guys can be up and online in a matter of a few minutes. So,
Okay. Any questions for Dustin? Dustin?
Please stop by.
Absolutely.
We'd like to see you guys.
Thank you.
Move on to item D, Parks and Recreation Director, Danny.
Good evening. As your Parks and Recreation Director, I kind of wanted to give you an update on what we've got going on. On a daily basis, the guys check the parks, pick up trash, maintain playground equipment. Daily, they're mowing, weed eating, edging sidewalks. We just finished up our fall coriation program. We started applying fall fertilizer today. I picked up 2 ton. And normally that takes us about 3 or 4 days to put down 2 ton of fertilizer on approximately 15, 20 city-owned properties. And we started this morning, and all 3 of us, we got 2 ton put down today, so I was pretty proud of that. So when we get our first frost, we'll be doing our fall herbicide spraying. I'm planning on watering about 30 more days, try and get things winterized and shut down by Halloween. We'll also be doing some of our fall tree trimming this fall. If we happen to catch a rainy day, we pull our equipment in the shop, sharpen lawnmower blades, grease equipment, change oil. We also provide a mower for the GAC at the ball fields. We go pull it in and service it also. We run 4 mowers. Also, I know a lot of people, when they think of the Parks Department, they think of just the city parks, which Phillips Park, Rosewood Park, Gulick Park, Memory Park, Chambers Park, Stever Park, Pioneer Park, Dog Park, Van Gogh, and the Water Park. But they don't consider the other. We also are groundskeepers at City Office, Art Center, Airport, Museum, Power Plant, ED Building, Police Station, and the West Lot.
Don't you guys do part of that at Highway 27 as well?
No, the Kenton and the Street Department takes care of the roadways.
Okay.
So, but out of all those properties, it keeps, especially when it gets to rain, and that keeps us busy. Neil and I have the water park winterized. His guys and my guys, we got it all ready to go for winter. That's about all I have on the Parks Department. On the recreation side, the company's still coming out to recondition the tennis courts anytime. Get that taken care of, hopefully for fall. Pickleball's being played at Chambers Park every morning. Flag football starting up out at the Centennial Ball Fields at the Fourplex. We have a crew that plays basketball in the evenings over at the West Courts. Grade school kids are using Phillips Park as a playground area. They just come over from the school and play. Junior high and senior high kids are using Stever Park now to kind of get out in the open. They're playing Frisbee. And the high school tennis team is still using the tennis courts. And I've got a group of kids that one of the high school teachers is they're going to repaint the shuffleboard courts over at Chambers Park so we can get shuffleboard going again over there. And I think that's about it on the recreation side. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything related to my departments or?
Congratulations on your promotion.
Well, thank you.
I think you'll do a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
You got a good crew.
Well, I appreciate all the work that Andrew's helped me with all the recreation stuff. We've accomplished a lot of things.
Well, with that list, I mean, that's quite educational. I mean, that's quite a area to cover.
If you're ever out and about, come by our shop. We're across the big shop, across the street from the big shop, 1717 Arcade. I know JJ's been in the shop one time, so more than welcome to stop by and look around. So.
Any questions for Danny?
Do you have heat in that shop?
Excuse me?
Do you have heat in it?
I do now.
Good.
You better, huh?
Yeah, when the police department had it as impound, it didn't have heat. And then when I took it over, we went in and gutted it and started all over. And Rich and I put in a gas line. The People's Natural Gas put us in a service. And the heater was there, but it was over in the corner. So I got it working. And then we don't have running water or bathroom over there. We just go over to the other shop. But I've built workbenches and built an office. And I've got a hoist in there. So
That way you don't have to clean the bathrooms.
Yep, don't have to worry about that. So, but if you ever want to look around, come on down.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to commissioners' report. Start over here with Gary.
Well, I don't really have much. Things look good around town. Looks like everybody's staying busy. Looks like Neil's running ragged.
My one question is, what are we short on employees per department?
Well, you got one for the electrical, you got parks.
We offered employment.
Huh?
We offered employment to an individual, and I think he's just waiting on his physical.
Oh, good.
And I think it was supposed to be scheduled maybe today. So early this week sometime.
That's
so we're
great.
just waiting.
Good news.
Yeah, so.
Then we got, what, a couple on yours, Frankie?
Well, actually 3. We just hired 2. They will start Wednesday, and they will both go to the academy on November 9th.
Okay.
We're working on a 3rd. We're just waiting to hear back from him. We made him a conditional offer, and he's going to talk it over with his wife because he's from Pennsylvania. So he's going to talk it over with his family, and he should be giving us an answer this week.
Are the other 2 local?
Yes.
Good. Good. Okay. So that's
Water.
I'm down. I will be down 2 here shortly.
2.
And Danny?
I'm all filled up. I'm good.
Can't be short.
Yes.
And he's gonna be short.
But he's
Another one will be short 2, right?
Yes, but we've got one extended an offer on Street and Alley, and then potentially. So I think we're getting in filled up. So we're getting there.
That's about all. I just like to say that I appreciate all the work that everybody's been doing.
All right.
Something just popped in my head, all this talk about fall. I don't know why it made me think of it, but in the spring, we had postponed the spring cleanup, discussed about doing it again in the fall. Has there been any discussion about that?
We kind of have paused it just the way COVID has kind of progressed. There was sort of a resurgence and obviously concerns with putting things, having people cleaning out their houses and things may not be the most sanitary environment for our employees in this time. So, but I think that'd be something probably for the commission to decide on. Do you all want to proceed with a fall cleanup? I think some of the staffing issues too, just it's hard when you don't have enough hands to actually go door to door and collect the stuff. So.
Well, and you're working on the alleys, and you're going to be working on part of that sidewalk up there where Cooper is concerned, right?
Right.
And so there's quite a bit of stuff. Are you
after you get done with the alley up here on by Western up here, is there another one that you're going to tackle? There's a little bit that's going to be over there where right off where Kendall's got his back building too, right?
Yeah, so the next, we're tackling the GAC, and then it's our intention to do the alley behind Hallmark as well. I think at this point, it's just going to be how much time does it take? We said Kenton's down staff, it's taking time, and are we going to run into weather here?
Right.
It's just a matter of what can we get done in the fall, what's going to have to come in the spring.
Anything can happen now for weather.
Yeah, we can, winter could start next week. So,
anything else there?
No, maybe just have that as a discussion item for next meeting. If you would. That's it.
I don't have anything.
Nothing. Okay. Well, I got a couple of things. We were talking about the sidewalk. Andrew, you might want to chime in anytime. I think, one of there's, when we originally did, those sidewalks between starting all the way from 10th to 11th, there were some changes made at that time. I kind of figured that the whole, sidewalk should have been replaced. But since then, there's been some interest, some people who have issues with their sidewalks. And I was visiting with Andrew. I said, if these guys are willing, to pay for all of the material and chime in and do whatever it takes, it might be a good incentive to get some of those, sidewalks on Main Street. If we could, if we catch, the street department at the right time where they can help, do this product. So you might, do your 2 cents worth to the commission and see what, what you think on that.
yeah, I think we've had discussions, and we do just need to kind of figure out property lines and Main Street sidewalk ownership. But if we have property owners that are interested in again, doing some kind of cost share or providing the cost of materials, and we can fit it into our schedule, I think we'd like to do more sidewalk repairs and improvements downtown. So
I think it would be a good, move for the city. The other thing is good that Dustin was brought to me about how much it would take to put lights up there on Chamber Parks for that pickleball players. Some of them feel like they would like to play in the evening, but starting to get. Would it be hard to put a couple of lights on there? Or?
There were lights on there a few years ago.
So we took them out?
Yeah.
Because they weren't being turned on?
No, it's when you guys decided to go to the facility there. And we're going to turn the other side into parking lot. And then nothing happened there, and then you guys turned it into a pickleball court.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned this earlier, like a few months ago, didn't you, Timmy?
yeah, we've had people reach out, lighting up.
Yeah. So it probably wouldn't be that hard. The majority of the cost is going to be in your light and your pole, which I know you could probably light that entire area with two poles, one on each side. Because I think you brought up something about the volleyball court or something at one time, and what it would take. I mean, I think at one point we had some light poles left over from Highway 27 project when we did that, and then the state went in there and tore up our stuff, so we had to take that stuff down. So we might be able to save some money there. LED light fixtures are coming down price-wise, but yeah, that can be a time filler. I know that Luke won't like this, but we've got the poles to finish Highway 24, but we've got to find time to put them out there because I've got to focus on infrastructure in town. Yeah. Light poles are those are time filler stuff. So yeah, it could be done. It's a city park, so we're going to meet that cost. I mean, it is what it is.
You might just put a synopsis and bring it to the commission and see, what Now, I think it'd be a good thing, there's enough input, so there's enough, Paul, you had done some too.
Yes.
So, you might,
I have no problem spending Danny's money, so.
I heard you that time.
At the same time, if you would, also have people ask me about like the skate park in that area too. So, looking at what it costs to do one area, what it costs to do two.
well, and we've got, some, poles laying around that, we can utilize.
But, yeah, even if you bought new poles, I mean, we just went through this with the school. Your light fixtures are probably, and you wouldn't need the light fixtures that we got for the track, because there's only gonna be 12 of them lighting the entire track. So you could get by with some $300 light fixtures and a couple of $2,000 poles. So if I was going to give it to you, I mean, just material, not labor, $5,000, $5,500.
For
For
both
poles,
locations.
for
Two poles per location.
yeah.
Right.
And the pickleball court's probably a little smaller. I'd have to take a look at the skating facility. I know that we do have conduit going over there, so that'd save on some of the expense. We just have to drill a couple holes and put some poles up. But that could be a kind of maybe a late fall or early winter project. So.
Sure.
But they wouldn't be skating over there maybe at that time either. So.
You'd be surprised how many people are over there.
I know.
All the time.
Yeah, because I think at one point they were turning the tennis court lights on to get some light over at the skateboard park.
Do those lights, did we put an automatic shut off on those things, or they still have to shut them off?
At the tennis court,
Yeah.
they're on a timer.
So,
But I think we talked about having a timer with either a flashing light or an audible sound or whatever. And I believe the cost for that timer came back at around $4,000 just for the timer, and so I didn't pursue that anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, and somebody like Marty or Zach or one of the electricians might have something that would work, but it's not going to be like what we discussed, because I think you said like an audible timer or a visual timer, something that's going to flash 2 or 3 minutes before it goes off. That way you can have enough time to run over there and hit it for another 30 minutes or an hour or something.
Well, why don't, when you get a chance, just kind of do a quick, I think, we'll bring it back for another discussion so the commission can give you some direction for what we can do.
Okay.
Sign up saying how long the light stays on when you hit it. Maybe set a time on the phone. For 5 minutes.
Well, the way it's set up now is it's on a timer, and so if you go over and flip the switch on, it's on until the timer goes off. So people turn it on and then they play tennis and then they leave, and then that's still on at like 11 o'clock at night. So
And we actually have the same thing over at the basketball court at West. They're on, Dustin's got them on a timer, but those guys know when it's gonna get dark and stop playing.
Up here,
By the West School.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask JD about that timer at the tennis courts. When you first moved here, you was over there in the dark wanting to play tennis, and I was about 10 o'clock at night, and I was over there setting water at night. You hollered at me, "How you turn these lights on over here? I want to play tennis."
Okay, the only other thing that I have, you had mentioned to Dakota Andrew drive by 416 Main, and there's a house on Third Main that's got a lot of stuff out there, way more than should be. So you might just have to drive by there and see what you can do.
Another one, we can do is parked on the yard right under the road sidewalks. There's one right over here on the corner.
I think that's
Any other thing? Not all right to make a motion to recess into the written session in court in 75-4319D1 relating to non-public personnel for a period of 25 minutes. Last five commission. Stain, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.